So how many of you have ever studied or looked at a hornet? I mean, really looked, not run away from one. I have usually run away. But in fact, if you study them, they turn out to be central to military campaign strategy. Who knew? Or at least that's the way the Bible presents them. The biblical word tzira appears exactly 3 times in the entire Bible, which is in of itself an anomaly, and I guess explains why I wasn't paying attention to it, because I missed it the first 2 times for several years. The first time we see it is in the book of Exodus, where there's a promise, Vayishlachti et hatzara lifnecha. I will send the tzara ahead of you, and it shall drive out before you the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites. The second time we see it in this week's Parsha, V'gam et hatzara yishlach Adonai Elohecha bam. The eternal your God will also send these tzara out against them until those who are left in hiding perish before you. Okay, so we've got some hornet of some sort going out ahead. Their strategy maybe. And lastly, recognition maybe, Vayishlach lefanechem et hatzara. I sent the tzara ahead of you and it drove them out before you, not by your sword or by your bow. And if you notice, there's a pattern here in the overarching book. There's a promise. God's going to take care of you. There's a strategy. We have these tzara going out ahead and making sure everything's going to be cleared off. And lastly, there's a recognition that it wasn't us, the army, that drove out the people. It was, in fact, a wasp or a hornet in this case. So why hornets? Well, it turns out when you Google hornets, you learn all sorts of things, and then you double check it on ChatGPT, and you learn more things about hornets than you ever knew possible. But I also asked ChatGPT to cite all of its sources in verifying what I had learned about them. But they do go out, not all hornets, but some, do in fact go out ahead and scout out colonies beforehand. There is a systematic path to what they do. There's in fact some sort of, they don't just randomly do things, but they do so with a pattern. And they are small and decisive. So it's not like they're just randomly going out and doing it. And in fact, the most, I think, amazing thing is they're working together as a colony. And so you can kind of see why the author of the biblical text might use this as a metaphor of the going out ahead, the working together systemically towards something, the support of a group of people, and the small and mighty, because you know the Israelites are usually behind the 8 ball, are getting out and doing something amazing. Classical rabbinic interpretations, beginning even with Rashi, Ibn Ezra, and the Talmud, they notice that, and Rashi goes into this, that this is a stinging insect that blinds the Canaanites beforehand. That's how those small beings work. Ibn Ezra points out that it's a metaphor for disease and terror, and the Talmud notes and debates and highlights how they didn't cross the Jordan River. These were specific hornets that only functioned in the wilderness of Sinai, and when they attack people, they hit their eyes and their genitals. I don't know why the Talmud thought that detail was important for all of us to focus on, but that's the rabbis and their humor for you. Modern scholarships think a little bit differently. Was it the hornet? Was it the hornet's nest that's described in the Levant at large? Maybe was it some other understanding? Because tzara'at, it appears only 3 times, like I mentioned. Is it related to tzara or leprosy? I can't sit here and give you definitive answer for that, but there is a profound insight in that sometimes something invisible and decisive is working ahead of us, helping us without our effort. The metaphor, though, I think is more important than the specifics of the biology or whether or not it's exactly right with the tax pax lumina. I want us to focus on the invisible structure of God working out ahead of us. This principle asks us to move from individual belief of individual success. And I'm sure we've all heard people say, I succeeded, I'm the one, I did it. Disregarding the roads that they drove on that were paid by taxpayers, or the teachers, or the librarians, or the bankers, or anybody else who may have helped them along the way. The hornet metaphor forces us to recognize that we were a colony in a way that everybody had a job, that everybody had something, and that success depended on the working together of everybody. In principle, what looks like an individual achievement then is the actual result of collectively coming together. It's vast networks of support, investment, and advocacy. And our Parsha adds this one little detail in the following verse. When describing and discussing the hornet, the eternal your God will dislodge those people before you little by little. You will not be able to put an end to them at once, else the wild beasts would multiply in your land and hurt you as well. So the hornets aren't just doing something quickly, they're doing it little by little, collectively together. And I thought about, why is this happening? Why little by little? And I know, because I've spoken to other people, and I watched this one reality show on TLC once, of what happens to lottery winners like 5 years later, and you see that 1/3 of them are bankrupt. You see people who suddenly have a miraculous solution to their problem are finding themselves back in the same problem. And it really got me thinking that, what's the wisdom of fixing something instantaneously? Maybe there isn't. Maybe in fact there's wisdom to little by little. The Bible talks about, if it's instantaneous, wild animals are going to roam in the land. I'm not sure about that, but what it gets at is that unless you've, I think, really established well-worn habits, then all of your old habits that got you in the problems to begin with, and the myth of having and possessing individual success without acknowledging what you stood on before you, is going to take over and lead you to unhealthy, non-productive thinking. And so the challenge is, are we all called to be God's hornets in this generation? Or in the case of my children, are they also called to be a hornet? Do they need to work ahead and prepare for people who are going to, God willing, follow after them? Do they need to work systemically? Do they need to work collectively? And do they need to do it invisibly? Hornets, beautifully enough, don't labor for recognition. They labor as a whole unit. And I think that is, in fact, our calling. It is perhaps the most anti-American statement. It threatens the myth of self-made, I did this myself, and it rather says my success was enabled by invisible workers across generations. Understanding this truth, I think, makes us humble about our achievements, compassionate toward the struggle of others, and responsible to extend the work and effort of those before. When we recognize the hornets who worked ahead of us, maybe our heart softens toward them with gratitude. Maybe we need to treat them with a little bit of compassion. And when we find ourselves to be those hornets from before, maybe the hornets that come after us will treat us also with compassion. When we commit ourselves to our greater purpose, maybe, just maybe, we can in fact make the world better. So maybe now, whenever you see a hornet, you're going to look at the hornet ever so slightly differently. You'll remember that God's most decisive work happened through the smallest, almost invisible agent. Remember that all of our success rests on countless hidden hornets of generations before. That the true strength is never by the sword or the bow or a miraculous moment of winning the lottery. It's by the invisible infrastructure ahead, or laid out, excuse me. And remember, I think most importantly, we are called to be hornets for others, to work ahead, to work systematically, collectively, and even invisibly, preparing the path for those who may come behind us, God willing they will, who will never know our name, and that's okay. May we honor the hornets who came before us. May we have the courage to become hornets in the generation to come. And may we be able to buzz along and have a good Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom.